la 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 la.
Hey everybody, my name is Megan. I am a technical business analyst and a product owner, and I get a lot of questions through my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, on what is a senior technical business analyst and then what is a product owner. And then the biggest question is, how do you do both? How are you dual role? So I thought today would be fun if we could go through what the day in the life is. Love to be able to show you all the meetings, what we do, what our roles apply to, and really what we do throughout the day. So I'm excited to be able to bring you guys along. It is about 6:30 a.m. So let's go ahead and grab some coffee and then we'll start to sit down and talk about the day.
How did you do it? Make me feel like I want a commitment. Pulling me close, I can't refuse it. Trying to keep you under my skin. My patience is running dry.
How did you end up working as a business analyst and product owner? A lot of times people come into tech and people think that you need to do this huge boot camp or you needed to have some type of technical abilities. Well, I do think that's true to an extent. From my own experience being an admissions counselor, helping companies get new talent, but also helping people break into the tech space, I've seen everybody. I've seen nurses come in, teachers come in, race car drivers come in. I've seen people work at the 9/11 Memorial as construction workers, or the actual people who designed it come forward and want to come into tech careers. Tech has a lot to do with data. It has a lot to do with soft communication skills, as well as technical skills. My business or my degree was international affairs. It has nothing to do with tech. It was more of like, I'm going to go solve the next world problem. I think that a lot of the skills that helped me to get where I am and succeed within the tech space actually had to do a lot with my careers in college. Being a waitress, it was host for bartending, doing all these random jobs that had a lot of center focus on customer service, soft skills, team management, team working, and just areas like that. Because the tech stuff can be learned. You can learn that later on, but coming through people with good abilities to communicate, to perform, to be hungry for change, to be interested, to be able to know how to sell when coming to a product, what product you're working on, or just working in different markets and industries, I think that's sometimes hard to find. Just some comfort if you are thinking about becoming a product owner, if you are wanting to become a business analyst, your soft skills go a very long way. I've also worked in other positions prior to being a business analyst and product owner. I have dabbled in consulting for a few years, done freelance consulting as well, kind of paved my way in as to when the tech industry started to change and becoming a little bit more competitive. I started doing more of volunteering myself for roles. Well, as we all know in the tech industry, it's a little rocky. You need to be able to take on different positions. You need to be able to raise your hand. And that's what I think has led me into feeling comfortable in a business analyst and product ownership role, is because a lot of the volunteer things that we do on the side in tech. If you ever are contemplating getting into a role and have the opportunity to be able to volunteer at your job, get hands-on, shadow somebody, definitely take that opportunity. I think it's a very cool position. I think that there's a lot of ways that people can kind of go into what they want out of a career, and I'm exactly doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this coffee before it gets watered down, and then we'll go ahead and start and show you what the day like starting from daily stand-up. So today, the first meeting that we have is the daily stand-up. And this is where myself, as what is called the functional team, our Scrum Master and another business analyst, we run the daily stand-up. And that means that we're meeting with our development team to talk about any tickets that are currently in progress, any blockers that they have, any assistance that they need. And really, we're just there to be able to make sure that the tickets move through our sprints, because we work in a 2-week sprint agile methodology. So we're essentially just making sure that tickets go through within a 2-week span. So that means we need to work, and also make sure that everybody has the questions answered that they need, or if they're stuck on things that we can help them really right away. We're gonna go ahead and show you a little bit of how the daily stand-up is. We check in with each developer. We currently use a ticket system that is managed through Jira, which I absolutely love, huge advocate for it. And we review each of the developers' tickets. So whatever they're working on, we'll see what the story is, what questions they have, and if they have any comments that they typically and can use the comment section within that ticket to leave any updates, any blockers. Those things are really used for if anybody needs to step in and take over their ticket. So we're going to go ahead and meet with the developers now. It is a special day, so we're actually ending the current sprint that we're working on now, and we're going to be hosting a retrospective earlier, so you'll be able to hear how that is. A retrospective really focuses on what did we do well as a team, because we're working in a big team. I think we're about 15 people here. That's a lot of people to work together. A lot of different ways people work. What did we work on well? What can we improve on? And then what should we eliminate? What do we need to get rid of? How do we work better together? Let's just go ahead and start with the daily stand-up. You can hear a little bit of how that works, how we ask developers how they're doing, and then we'll go ahead and go to the next meeting. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, team. If there's any things that come up, don't forget to put it in our daily stand-up chat. Reach out to the people that you need to speak to. Make sure that you're passing any tickets that are under code review and they're ready for testing to their appropriate teams. But outside of that, everybody have a good day, and we'll talk to you either throughout the rest of the day or see you at the retrospective later. Bye. Let's start. Let's look at the tickets that we have for the upcoming sprint. See what we can use. Make sure that we're checking if any of the tickets from the clients need to be prioritized, but also make sure that any of the tickets that we had future developments with, specifically for the website, that we can get that pushed out for the next sprint. So let's just go ahead and look over that. Okay, so I thought it'd be cool if we kind of move around a little bit, get some movement in throughout the day. As you see, it is a lot of back-to-back meetings. Now that we've just finished the backlog grooming call, I want to talk a little bit about the role differences. Now later on in the day, you're going to see the balance between creating user stories as a business analyst, but also you're going to see the product ownership side. Throughout what I'm doing right now, I am currently designing and building 2 products. Now, if you're familiar with a platform called Salesforce, we're utilizing that for the client to be able to build out 2 things. The first is a call center. The second is a guest portal, and that is technically a website. So, a lot of cool things that you get to do when it comes to being a product owner. You get to be a part of building really cool things at a high impact level for a lot of users. Now, the call center is going to be based off of my background with service assistance, with working with metrics and data, and thinking about the people at the end of the day who are using the system. Again, going into the question, like, how did you get into being a business analyst? A lot of it actually had to do with my previous jobs, working in retail, customer service, and such things like that. A lot of the design that we're building when we think about the call center is the metrics that we're reporting on, how many people are calling in, where are they calling from, what is the severity of the case, what are the outcomes of the case. So it's really cool to be able to focus on the development of it now, but also be able to have that balance of how do we want this product to look in the future. And then the second piece is building out that website. Now, this is something new to me. I've actually never built a website before. I have my own personal website, and I think that gave me some experience, but I've actually never built a website before as a product. And I think that there's a lot of things that come into play when you're building a website. We also are very fortunate to be able to have a UX designer work with us, but you're thinking about websites, you're thinking about the layouts, you're thinking about the design, you're thinking about the user experience and the simplicity that you want to be able to provide to them. You're also thinking about the colors, like the color schemes. So you're opening up your world as a product owner to the market that you're serving, the market that you're working with, but you're also thinking about the user. So for example, ours is healthcare related. So I'm opening up my doors to discovering what do healthcare professionals need, but also what do people that have a healthcare portal want to see. So those are really cool things that you get to learn and you get to really own when having a product. So those are, again, the two things that we're running with. You're going to see a balance as we go throughout the day, the type of stories that we work on. Again, I can't show you those, but I really want to be able to use things like ChatGPT to be able to give the platform kind of like a user request, and then we can work on it together to break it down in terms of what your user story is going to look like, and then how we go about getting that and reviewing that with the other teams. So we're done the backlog meeting. We need to go get some air, as you can see, and just kind of stand up, and then we'll come back and then work on those user stories together. Little puppet. Little puppet. Okay, so when I talk about working with the development team as a business analyst and product owner, we work in what is called sprints. And that means we can work once a week. We're getting out a new sprint with ticket requirements from our stakeholder / client, where we're working in 2 weeks. Right now, we work in an agile format. We're using Jira to be able to track our tickets, our requests, and then we work in a 2-week sprint duration. The sprint numbers that we work on come out every 2 weeks, and behind the scenes, what we're doing to be able to keep that flow going is that we're creating user stories about a week ahead, so that can be prepared for the next sprint. I'm going to bring you all along the creation and the process of how we create those behind the scenes sprints and user stories to be able to have it be ready for the following week. When that following week time frame comes, we typically sit about 5 days out, so the lead developer can go ahead and review the stories, ask questions, follow up. He can identify if we're missing anything. While I am a senior business technical analyst, there are some things when working on certain products, when working in tech, that I might miss, and the developer is able to fill that out. So for example, if I'm building a portal right now within a Salesforce product or AWS, whatever the product may be on the technical side, that lead developer is typically the specialist. He or she is able to say, hey, you did do this ticket right for the enablement of something, but there is a technical piece that either A, we need to add to the ticket or create another ticket for. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just having the ticket prepared for the lead developer to be able to review in 3 days. And I'll go ahead and record that process when the time comes, so you can see that kind of interaction and the updates that need to be made on the ticket specifically. For confidentiality reasons, I cannot share the specific tickets, but what I thought would be fun is that we could mock up some demo tickets together so you could see how the user stories are being made, because that's a question that I get quite often, is like, how do you make tickets? And something that I've discovered along the time of working in tech, from being a consultant myself, a more junior BA, and now a more senior technical BA, is every team likes to work a little bit differently, and they've been trained a certain way too. My job as the business analyst is to be able to make sure that my developers, number one, understand the tickets and they have everything that they need. There's a lot of things that are constantly changing, and that's honestly why we have sprint retrospectives. Let's go ahead and show you some of the stories that we have. Again, remember, they're like dummy stories, and how we start out, where we track them, how to track them, and the importance of tracking them, but then how those stories look, and then let's go ahead and look at the portal. I'm excited to show you. Let's just go ahead and start off right here. This is specifically using Jira. It is another type of software to be able to use with ticket systems. There's different ones that you'll probably experience when you get out there for yourself, but let's go ahead and start with Jira first. Typically, when you come to a board, you're going to open up daily stand-up like we showed a little bit earlier. You're going to go through the board and look at what everybody has assigned. In this case, you can see little different pictures right here of different people. So that means that depending on the bucket that they're in, you have a to-do, in progress, code review, done. Different people are going to be working on different things at different times. And this is a great opportunity for you to see where they're at, what specifically the title of the ticket is, how many story points are allocated to the ticket, meaning how difficult is it, how long is it going to take for them to complete, and if they're experiencing any blockers. So again, this is just how your Jira board is going to look. Now, inside of that ticket, typically you're going to have a description, what's inside of your ticket, what is a user asking for, or in this case, the client? What is the acceptance criteria? What makes this ticket pass? What do the developers, what does your team need to do in order to ensure that this ticket can move forward and meets qualifications? A really great thing to add, which is usually not done by the BAs, but something that is added on later for the developers if you have a testing team, if your client's going to test, if you're going to test, is just having testing criteria. How do you test this ticket? You wrote it all out for me. I have instructions. I have acceptance criteria. I know what it needs to do, but how can I test it inside the system? So those are some of the 3 core areas that you'll most likely see inside of a ticket. Now let's talk about other areas. So a few more things that you're going to have within your ticket. Not everybody does this, but I think it's really good practice. You have story points. Is it a relatively small effort? Is it a high effort? Usually the lower the points, the lower the effort. You're going to have the duration. How many days do you think that this ticket's going to take? And usually that question is asked when the ticket is complete and you're talking to the development team. What is the priority? Is it low, medium, high? What does the client want? Does the client want it now, in the next sprint? Like, how does the developer have to prioritize it? And how do you, managing this sprint, have to manage it as well and look at the ticket? Who is it assigned to? Who is it going to be in charge of? Like, who's going to take the ticket? Who's going to work on it? And then the reporter, it's most likely going to be you. Who does that developer or persona need to report to about the ticket? Here is a little example of how a story would look. The request would be, we need a way for customers to easily reset their passwords on our website. So as a user story, as a customer, I want to be able to reset my password if I forget it so I can regain access to my accounts. All right, so we heard that the customer needs to be able to quickly get access to their accounts. They want to go, they want to access the site. So what can we do? So let's talk about the acceptance criteria first as well. A customer has forgotten their password, therefore a link should be sent to them. So when clicking on the forgot password section of the page, a link should present itself to the user, sending the credentials for them to be able to reset their password. Then, once that reset link is sent, they'll be sent to a new page where they can do that. So you can see we have a given, when, and then section broken down. This gives the scenario, when specifically they're doing something, and then when that action is taken, what is the next action that should happen to be able to help them resolve X request. The really cool thing about working with tickets is it doesn't need to just have that acceptance criteria. As I talked about earlier, when you're working with different teams, it's very important to be able to make your story really come to life. I think that's the best way to explain it. Having the story that is beyond a user request. What should the visuals look like? Where should these fields go? What should that link look like? What should that link say when resetting a password? You're working with different ages, different people, different languages all over the world. So you need to make sure that you're kind of catering and you're putting on your UX designer hat there, which is the fun part. Include anything that's needed. You're not going to get everything every time. It's a learning process. You're working with a team. So as you go, hey, you forgot to add this field. Where should I put this? What color should we do this? So a lot of questions like that are going to come back to you. And I think that's the coolest part about being a BA. I want you to pause this screen if you need to go back and just kind of look at how to be able to create what I call stellar and high performing user story tickets. You have a request. You want to identify the key users. Who are we talking about? You want to understand the goal. You want to define the outcomes that have to come from this goal. What actions do you want? What do these two personas want to see? What do you want to be able to create? And then possibly what additional things can you create as well? Stories are not just a one-time thing. Yes, sometimes they are, but you have the ability as the business analyst to be able to expand into future possibilities with your client and your stakeholder. Next, you want to be able to prioritize and refine it. Sometimes you may have a ticket where it's like, okay, got it, clear, that I'm good to go. But then sometimes you need to be able to have conversations with your stakeholders. Well, we identified your users, we identified the user goals, the outcomes that you need, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And those are great opportunities for you as the business analyst to be able to find new things that your developer and your teams can do. So always make sure for step 4, prioritize and refine the stories. See what additional things come out of it, but don't push it. Only bring things to your client that
you see potentially could benefit them. And then lastly, you want to review and upload. I think it's always good practice to have somebody look at your stories. When you are working with 20 plus stories sometimes, try and make sure that you have all of the required things that you need, such as a summary, description, acceptance criteria, priority, story points, and assignee. Those are usually the primary things that you need to focus on. I left you a little bit of a user story request breakdown on the top left. Go ahead and take some time, work with that story, and see what you come out with. This is going to be my last. I wanted to keep this fun. What are some tips that you can take as a business analyst to be able to create user stories moving forward? Not just user stories, but be able to work with your team, be able to be a valuable team player and add value to the project that you're working on. 6 simple tips. Keep user stories clean and consistent. When you're creating stories, people get used to how you write things, how things appear, and they adapt to your way of working. Make sure that those stories are consistent, and if there's any changes that you're making or hear from your developers, perhaps in like a retrospective session, just bring it up to them. See what they want to see different and listen to what they want to see different, and then keep that consistency going. Make stories testable. Any story that you create, they need to be testable. They need to be tested in a different environment by different people. So always make it, yes, technical. That's for your developer team to do, but your stories need to be very clear in what you need to do next. Okay, that password reset comes. How fast should it come? Where should I go? What account is it going to go to? Those type of questions are going to come up, and just make sure to put those answers into the ticket if needed. Next is continuously refine them. That's what we've been talking about this entire little section here, is that it's going to change. Your tickets are going to change. Just make sure to complement my tip number 1, make it consistent. Tip number 4, focus on the why. Why is your user asking this? What additional information can you get out of there? And really always focus on the why at the end of the day when you're presenting that final piece to the client. You've built this new link to be able to reset your password. That again focuses on the user. And that's what you want to be able to explain. The next 2 ones are the fun ones. You get to collaborate and use visual aids. Talk to people. Like, I love being able to create user stories and bringing on different team members because it helps me get a different perspective of how they see the ticket and how they're going to work on the ticket. And it allows me to continuously refine that user story that's coming through for them. And then use visuals. If there's a screenshot, a specific location, a specific color, those are the things that you want to include. So those are all of the tips that I have for you to be able to create user stories, whether you're a new business analyst, you've been in the field for a while. I think it's very valuable for all of us to be able to share tips as we go in our business analyst journey. If you do have any specific questions to creating user stories, what should be inside of them, any of the tips, you want to suggest tips, go ahead and put it in the comment section. I think it's really important for us as all business analysts. We do different things, different days to be able to share those tips. So let's go ahead and go back into the video.
I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, things that you could put in the user story, especially if you're working with like a product or visuals. And if you have questions about like what would be helpful when you're working with the development team, or what did I learn over time, because trust me, I've gotten crap before about user stories. There's a lot of pressure sometimes, kind of like when you're the goalie and you're blocking a soccer ball sometimes. There's a lot of pressure that goes on when you create user stories, because you want to make sure it's great. And I think that's the part about being a BA, is that it's not going to come the first time, second time, or the third time. It's something that is important to be able to improve on. And that's why we host these retrospectives, to be able to say like, hey, developer, did you think that this user story was helpful? What could be improved? And that's why I love these type of sessions. I think that being able to have a trusting team and an open conversation where people feel comfortable, giving type of feedback is important to not only like develop as a team, but like for you and your role, how to get better. It's so important. So let's go ahead and head into the retrospective here. Typically they're just about 30 minutes. The Scrum Master also leads those too. And again, ask those general questions of what are we doing good? What can we do better? And then what can we eliminate? I'm excited. My favorite part just means that we finished a chapter successfully. The tickets got approved. They're moving in, and the client's going to see them. But now, most importantly, that we can just work together as a team. So, meeting's about to start. Let's just go ahead and dive in. I want to give kudos to everybody on the team, because I think that when we're working with a product and we're kind of working off like the demo it's been a little challenging, right? Because from what we can design in the demo, we have free range of what we want to do, from color, text, images, stuff like that. But when we're actually building the product out, we're gonna hit blockers. And I wanted to give the kudos to the developer team to be able to take the initiative to sync with us and talk to us about like what the product looked like and be able to work with blockers that we may have had. I feel like the team did a really good job of just having open communication and being really fast about like fixing things. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you. It was very easy going to work with you all this sprint, and I hope we can continue that. Okay, so we're done. I also work with my husband, hence his beautiful lights. He likes yellow and I like that color. We've had the retrospective, and as you heard, there were things that the team wants to improve on. I gave a few suggestions. As a BA, I think it's important to be vocal, and I think BAs are just more vocal in general than developers. So I think it's important to sometimes start off and not expect an answer right away. Sometimes people just like to hear in these type of meetings and being involved. I will say over time, when you start working with the team, depending on how long the length of your contract or your project is, there starts to become more comfortability, and there's like a train that it starts to move, and then all of a sudden it moves a little bit more. So that's really what we're starting to experience with our team. But again, you want to just make sure that when you're hosting these retrospectives, that people feel comfortable, that you're not attacking aggressively, you're being open and receptive, and encouraging your team at the end of the day by giving shout outs, by giving kudos. You don't need to ask those typical 3 questions like, what are we doing good? What can we improve? What should we get rid of? I think a really good kind of icebreaker sometimes is using different platforms. I had a fantastic manager that used to use a platform called Miro. I'll put it right here. She would turn on music and we would kind of come together and we would kind of drop what we thought, like what can we do better? And that just makes like the engagement a lot more fun and interactive. So that's one cool thing if you're looking to kind of spice up your retrospectives. You can also ease in with an icebreaker. If you were an Avenger, who would you be? Something like that, right? Make these events fun. We have a lot of work meetings every day. It can get a little mundane, so you want to make sure that you're making these type of team interactions fun. But comment below. I want to know what you all use in terms of retrospectives. How do you host them? What questions do you ask? And do you use any cool platforms like Miro? So let's take a break because it has been a lot of back-to-back meetings. I wanted to talk to people about the role and how I got into it. I think that's a really important story to share. Welcome to my backyard, by the way. My dog and I often come out and just kind of hang out when we need a break from the office. When it comes into the story of like, how do you become a business analyst and product owner, I think that it's important to talk about the journey because sometimes people fall into roles, and that was one of these scenarios. I was a consultant before, working with a CRM platform called Salesforce. While I really enjoyed the consulting, and a lot of those soft skills came from there and needing to ask better questions, I was also starting to see, like many, a decline in the tech industry with projects and really options for us as consultants to really pick up new projects for. There was an opportunity to be able to lead a technical automation course for the Salesforce division that I was working with. And it would be the first of that company's. Having combined my previous career, which was education, working at UC Berkeley, being able to combine YouTube and really put forward a course of using that technical skills and abilities, I was able to bring a course to life. That means that you're building out a product, you're building out something that users like students are going to use. And in this course, for the automations, I had about 4 to 6 instructors for that first cohort launch that we had. And then we had 25 to 30 students enroll per quarter. It was a huge success, huge kickoff, but that was my first really dabble in product and building something, about thinking about the user, about thinking about the content that we wanted to have, how we want them to be able to experience the course. And to say I fell in love, it took me a little while to understand if that was project management or product management, but quickly I understood that it was product. Fast forward a little bit, unfortunately was part of 7% layoff, and I needed to find a different role, and I kind of just took what I was experienced with between being a consultant, creating user stories already, and having that product experience. I took that and kind of just told people what I was looking for. I've used LinkedIn as a network. If you're not on there, definitely go on there and let's connect. But outside of that, I just fell into the senior technical business analyst route. And you can kind of see that career development if you are looking for like a new role or looking how to combine your roles in the past. I think that there's a lot of opportunities and lots of ways that you can actually do that. So yeah, I fell into the senior technical business analyst role based on the product. And now I am, again, kind of going back to the beginning of the video, launching my first 2 products on a larger scale than a course. But it's been a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of creativity that goes into being a product owner. There's a lot of ownership, hence product owner. You're owning the product. There's a lot of teamwork involved, a lot of just focusing on the user and getting creative and really digging into a market that you may have never had experience with before, or that you do. And I think it's just such a cool role. Now, to kind of sprinkle that with being a BA, you own something. When you're creating stories, you're taking users' requests, you're taking what the client wants for you to build, and you're designing that for them. If you have somebody that wants to say, I want to build a house, right? I want to be able to build this backyard. That's exactly what we did. You like the chimes? We have to be able to design, architect, build, and work with different teams to be able to make sure that this is the type of yard and design that we want. And then from there, you just kind of build and you work with different teams. That's a cool part. That's just how I got in the story of breaking into product management, product owner, but also being a technical business analyst. You can break into it a lot of ways. So I'm curious to know if anybody's watching this video, if you're currently a BA, if you're a product owner, if you're looking to break into the role, what questions do you have? What do you want to know? Happy to answer that in the comments below. So I hope this story was inspiring and helped you realize that you don't need to work on an immense project. Sometimes it's just about the opportunity falling in your hands, or you just simply volunteering for it. Anyways, it is actually hot out here. So we're gonna go ahead and head in. Let's go ahead and finish up the rest of the business day. So that is it. You have officially gone through what the day in the life of a business analyst and a product owner looks like working in tech. Thank you for staying in my office with me, gave me some comfort. I want to be able to just recap about the entire video and the entire day in the life that you just saw. Things look very different. The business analyst, we'll start with that, takes requirements from the clients, builds it from what the idea is now. So that means with the call center that we're working with and the product that we're working with, we think about the now, but we also think about the future. We think about reports and things that we need to do, but we also work on the user stories, and we're thinking about the now, helping our developers get through what they need to successfully finish the sprint. But we're also thinking about the future, and we're working on that actively. And that takes a lot of involvement from working with the client and just from personal experience. So that's a lot of what the business analysts do on top of the user story creations and all the meetings that you just saw. It's about understanding the persona at the end of the day and their experience. What complements that with the product owner is that you're also building something. You're building it from scratch, your ideas, your experiences, what the client wants, what their now goals, and then things that they didn't even think about when it comes to a product. You're diving into the market that you're focusing in. So it could be marketing, it could be life and sciences. In our case, it's healthcare. Sometimes you're going to have the opportunity to be able to dive into a market which you've never had the opportunity to do. And this is where you really need to make sure that you're applying and learning
and being knowledgeable in that area. You're that knowledge person. You're owning the product. You're building it. You're thinking about the user experience. You're thinking about how they're going to interact with your product. You're thinking about how they're going to hit errors and things that may not work, and you might need to turn back a product and make enhancements on it. So your brain's going everywhere. It's so much fun. That's why I personally love the role. There's just so much to learn, so much to do, so much creativity really that you have. So if you're a creative person, I think that this role would be perfect for you. Your soft skills improve over time as well. And you also get to be part of a team. You lead a team and you build the product in the best way that you think is possible, while also having people that work with you to help you do that. So I'm going to show you all how we just end the rest of the day, just kind of wind down a little bit. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about the BA role, the product owner role, being dual role. How do you manage it? Like, what if you want to pivot more one way or the other? And then how do you break into the role? Those are videos that are going to be coming up in the future, but really am happy that you could come along day in the life. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. It helps me know that you like this type of content. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.